On April 9th, body parts found in a recycling bin. Then, just a few days ago, they find more in another bin just 3 blocks away. And today, more human remains found at a recycling center. Back with Lonnie, Cheryl, Troy, and Jason. Joining me by phone, Jim Clemente, former FBI profiler. So, Jim, it looks like this guy tried to dispose of the body by dispersing it in various bins. Is there anything about that pattern that means anything to you?
Well, I think it's a pretty weak attempt at criminal sophistication and forensic sophistication. I think he tried to, it seems like the gruesome aspects of this case, the dismembering, were probably part of a disposal attempt that he thought would be effective. In fact, obviously it didn't work. So that tells me that both leaving the blood and body tissue in the drains, as well as leaving the body parts in dumpsters that went to recycling centers, was not the most sophisticated thing to do. He also left the hands and the feet and the head. Those are the things that can be used to identify somebody. This was not a very sophisticated crime.
And Jim, is there anything special about recycling bins? Is it just that it so happened it was the day when the bins are out on the street corner, you know, on the curbside? Or were those, and so they're going to get picked up? You figured that's the most expedient way to get rid of these things? Why not just the regular trash? Or is there something about the way recycled bins are disposed of that made it expedient? Or is it just random?
Well, I think you're absolutely right that the bins were probably out there, but it was the stupidest thing he could do, because he may not be aware, but recycling bins, the trash in them, they're actually gone through and sorted out. So it was the most likely place that this body would actually be discovered. So I think unless that was some kind of twisted way that he wanted to shock people by finding these body parts, I think it was the stupidest thing he could have done.
And Cheryl, you're nodding yes. That's just stupid.
Yeah, it just seems really weird. I mean, if you've got a choice between a recyclable versus regular trash, which is going to go to a dump in a landfill, it would just make sense if you're really trying to hide that crime, you would put it in a landfill.
Jason, this guy is an animal of the most sort of despicable quality. I mean, you know, I don't care if he was drunk when he did it. He was violent. He had a history of violence. He exploited women. He manipulated women. This guy's bad news.
Well, absolutely. He's bad news. The circumstantial evidence against him is overwhelming. You know, the big question, I think, today is, where did he actually kill and start dismembering Ingrid Lyne's body? Because he didn't do it at her home. I mean, if you're sawing a woman with a 15-inch saw, then there'd be blood splattered everywhere, and that wasn't the case in her home. So I still don't think authorities know where exactly the murder and then the brutal dismembering took place.
I'm betting, Troy, I'm betting it was some weird, you know, choking, sexual, whatever. He's wasted. He chokes her to death, then tries to figure out what to do with it, takes her out in the woods, saws her up, packages her. I think there was even if I remember right, the packaging that he put her in was from the garbage bag was from her house, right?
Yeah, there was an empty box of
allegedly.
Yeah,
Allegedly. It's all allegedly, but again, it's as Jason said, Troy, it's overwhelming data against him.
Well, although everyone in the media and even here have already convicted him, there's no forensic evidence that's been released that links him directly to a murder. Now, maybe like Robert Durst, he dismembered the body and disposed of it improperly, but we don't know for sure whether or not he is the actual murderer. Maybe she died for some sort of natural cause.
Jason, go ahead. Jason, please.
Stop. I mean, come on. The circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. Last person to see him, he has abrasions on his chest, his forehead, his hands. He says, conveniently, by the way, he remembers going to a Seattle Mariners game. He remembers going to a bar. He remembers having sex with her, possibly, but then forgets everything else after that. By the way, when police interviewed him, they said he was acting like an arrogant jerk, almost annoyed, had this nonchalant attitude like, hey, man, why are you bothering me? I mean, come on. This guy, he clearly is involved more than he's letting on.